On your screen, you will see the data of GDP growth rate of each year. In 2020, India's GDP growth rate was minus 5.8%, biggest or the most sharp decline in economic growth. And the reason is very simple because of COVID-19. Although it rebounded to 9.7% in 2021, in 2022, it was 6.8%. In 2023, it was 6.4%. In 2024, India's GDP grew by approximately 6.2%. And in 2025, it is projected as 6.5% growth in economy. If you want to know about GDP, you don't need to be an economist. A common man, even a vegetable vendor can also understand everything about GDP. After watching this video till the end, you will understand the term GDP. So let's begin. So here each word is having its own meaning, like gross means total, domestic means within the political boundaries of India, and products means goods and services which are produced within a year. You can earn money by two ways. Either you produce something, like some people produce cars, some people produce toys, some people produce mobile phones, or you give some kinds of services, like a lawyer gives services, a teacher gives services, or a coiffeur gives services by cutting hairs. So the value of all these goods and services, value means just say you if you have cut the hair for 100 rupees, then its value will be 100 rupees. Or if you have bought anything just for 10 rupees, then its value will be 10 rupees. So the value of all these goods and services earned within a year is its GDP. So if a company of USA comes to India to manufacture something, just for example say Tesla, then it will be counted in the GDP of India. It will not be counted in the GDP of USA. That is why our Prime Minister focuses so much on Make in India campaign. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Assume that there is a mall. Some shops are selling clothes in that, some are cutting hairs in that, a tarot card is predicting future in that, some are selling utensils in that. On every floor, goods and services are being sold. Now, if we note the value of every sold item in that mall and we do it for 1 year and at last we add them, then it will be the value of GDP of that mall for the year. Similarly, with respect to India. Now the question may arise that how the GDP is calculated. I will explain you with the help of an example. Assume that I want to eat an omelette, so I buy eggs from the market. Then that eggs price will be added to the GDP. But if someone is buying eggs because he or she wants to make cake from that egg, then that price of eggs will not be added to GDP. The price of that cake will be added to the GDP. Means the price of final products will be added to the GDP. Similarly happens to each and every product. And this record is maintained by the Central Statistics Office, CSO. In this, that products are maintained which are sold after production. Means first products will be produced and then it will be sold. Now if I make a wooden product at my home and keep it in my home only, then it will not be counted in the GDP because I have not sell it. So there are three methods to calculate GDP. First is production method, which is also known as value added method. It is a way to calculate GDP by summing the value added at each stage of production within an economy. Second method is expenditure method. It calculates GDP by adding total spending on final goods and services in an economy. And third is income method. It measures GDP by summing all incomes earned in the economy, including wages, rents, interest, and profits. On the screen, you will see all three methods formulas. Now, GDP is calculated by taking 2011 as base year. But wait, why only 2011? Because to ensure that national income estimates reflect the current economic structure. When you see the data of GDP in news, the data is written in two ways. GDP at constant prices and GDP at current prices. GDP at constant prices means real GDP, in which 2011 is taken as base year. And GDP at current prices means nominal GDP, in which base year will be current year. Now GDP increases only in two cases. First one will be if there is more production of goods and services, which will be the real GDP. And second case may be that production is not much, but GDP have increased due to increase in prices. That is nominal GDP. So you have to be very careful when government presents the data of GDP in front of you, because the main purpose of GDP is to tell the production of goods and services in the country. So if we consider the second case where GDP is increasing due to price, if we consider that, then we don't get to know the actual economy of the country. The GDP is calculated annually as well as quarterly. Annually means once a year and quarterly means 4 times a year. There are 4 quarters in 1 year, and the first quarter will be always compared with the first quarter of the previous year, so that we can compare the production of each year. So here on your screen is the actual data of quarter-wise real GDP growth rate for financial year 2019 to 2024. As I have already told you that there are 4 quarters in 1 year: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Now, if you look at the data for financial year 2019 to 2020, the economy experienced a steady decline in growth, which resulted into a 3.1% growth rate in quarter 4. For financial year 2020, the first quarter saw a significant contraction of minus 23.4%. And the reason is very simple: because of COVID-19 pandemic which occurred at that time. For financial year 2021, a strong rebound occurred, particularly in quarter 1 with 20.1%. For financial year 2022 to 2024, growth rate stabilized with moderate increases across all quarters. For financial year 2024 to 2025, the first 3 quarters indicate a slight moderation in growth compared to the previous year. But don't you think that why it is needed to calculate GDP? Why so much of effort is needed to calculate this? See, if GDP is going up every year, that means the production is more in the country. The economy of nation is good. On the other hand, if GDP is falling every year, then production is not very good. It is decreasing. Fewer number of goods and services are being produced. And when production will be less, then selling will also be less. And if there will be less selling, then businesses will also earn less money. Earning less money means purchasing power of people is decreasing. The economy is decreasing, as we have seen in COVID-19. By GDP, we get to know the economic health of our nation. And by this only, government makes different policies. By GDP is a good way to know our shortcomings, and without knowing them, we can't improve them. The GDP of USA is number one with $30 trillion. Second is China with $19 trillion. And India's GDP is $3.9 trillion. So at last we can conclude that GDP is a useful measure of economic activity, but it only shows how much goods and services are being produced. It does not mean that a high GDP means wealth is evenly distributed. No. Then only a small sections or the upper class family will earn lots of amounts of money, and others, common people, will suffer. A high GDP does not mean that people living in that country are really happy. It does not show us happiness index or the health or the education or the quality of life. So we can say that GDP is a good indicator of economic size, but not necessarily of people's well-being. So that's it, and thanks for watching this video.